Okay, I wanted to do this video last week to explain something, but I did not have the energy, and my voice was a complete mess, and I wasn't really able to talk much. But now I'm able to. So, um, on Friday, April 15th, me and my husband drove to Columbia, South Carolina, literally all night long, and picked up a friend of ours who was in a tough situation. She needed help. So we went and picked her up and drove her to her mom's place, who lives in Cleveland County, North Carolina, and I'd have to go do the math to find out how many hours we drove, but so we were initially planning to do it so we got the call from her Thursday evening that she was in a tough spot and she needed help. And she has no vehicle of her own, she can't drive, but she needed to get from where she was to her mom's. And we told her that we would have the gas money on Friday to come get her and just to hold tight. And she said okay. And that night we both went to bed, and I was planning to get up at 8 a.m. and see about headed that way. My husband decided after a power nap of 2.5 hours at 2 a.m. Friday morning, we were going to drive all the way down there throughout the night to get her. And I thought, well, okay, that's not what I thought was planned, but that's fine. The thing is, I had taken a sleeping pill, not knowing we were going to get up at 2 a.m., and so I ended up needing to drink some caffeine all the way there just so I could stay awake. He told me I could have just slept on the way there, but I'm like, I want to be alert just in case something happens and he needs my help. So I chose to just drink vanilla Coke to help me stay awake. And it did. I was able to stay awake all the way there. Now where she was at, it took nearly 30 minutes just to locate her because the apartment complex she was in was a freaking maze. And nothing is numbered. It's crazy. So I ended up having to call her, and I'm like, we can't find you. You're going to have to come to the leasing office of this apartment complex and then take us to where you're at because we cannot find you. So she came. We followed her back to the apartment, got her stuff, and drove the rest of the night to her mom's. So we got to her mom's, and we helped her unload all of her belongings into the house. They had a spare bedroom she could stay in until she can get back up on her feet. And so at the timing that we were there, we were only there for 1 hour. And it was unloading the car, putting everything into the room she needed help with. And then we sat down, not for long at all, and spoke to her mom, who was giving us updates about everything going on in her life because we hadn't heard from them in a while. And we did not know that our friend's mom that we were speaking to, she didn't even know that she had COVID. She had no idea that she did. We didn't know either. Nobody in that household had any idea. And the only symptom at that point in time that she was experiencing was just being extremely tired and very fatigued. But she assumed that was mostly just allergies and possibly not sleeping much at night because she goes to bed around 11 every night and she's up at 4 every morning, so it doesn't sound like enough sleep, honestly. And I contributed me being extremely exhausted at that point from being up all night. And then it was my sleeping pill. So I assumed that I was just tired from that. We were there for only 1 hour. Only 1 hour. I kept track of the time. And then when we were done there talking to her, we went back home. I climbed into bed. And as soon as my head hit the pillow, I was out. I was out for maybe 4.5 hours. And he waited for a little bit. He was waiting for someone to show up to help us with something in our front yard. So he didn't go to bed yet. And then when I did wake up, he tried to take a nap, but was having troubles with that. So later on in the evening of that Friday, later that day, I told him, I said, I need to go to Walmart and get a few items. So we did. I went and got some stuff that was needed. We came back home, and then my friend that we picked up in South Carolina and brought her back to her mom's, she texted me saying, have you guys got any sleep? And I told her that I got a couple hours of sleep, but that my husband had not even gone to bed yet, and that he's exhausted. So we went to bed that night, pretty early. Both of us were very tired. And we slept so hard that Saturday morning we were just so out of it and exhausted. And we just assumed that it was from the trip. So we slept most of Saturday, and then eventually I woke up and I told him, I said, I gotta go to the store, I gotta get a few things, because we had to go to another friend's birthday party for their child, who had just turned 3 years old. So he took me to Walmart and to Dollar Tree, and I got a few items so I could finish wrapping the birthday gift, and we went to the birthday party. Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. I felt a little bit exhausted, but I attributed that from the day before, from no sleep really. And he said that for the most part he felt okay. Neither one of us really had any issues. And we were there until about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And we got home, we got ready for church the next day. And we went to church Sunday morning. Now, Sunday after church at 12 p.m., lunchtime, I start, not only am I dealing with fatigue, I start having a persistent cough, and my throat starts hurting. At that point, I just assumed allergies, because the weather here in North Carolina cannot make up its freaking mind if it's going to be summer, winter, or freaking spring. Every day is a freaking different number. You really don't know. So we just assumed that the pollen count was probably high. Our allergies were all over the place because he was coughing and his throat was hurting. So I still have a cough, but we didn't think anything of it. We just assumed it was allergies. We took some allergy medication. And after church service, we then decided to go to Golden Corral and have an Easter lunch. Nothing out of the ordinary. We ate. We were both really tired. We planned to go back home, but we had to stop somewhere. We stopped at Walmart again because our coughing was getting so persistent and my throat was hurting. So we went to Walmart, got both of us cough medication. And at this point, I'm starting to have a headache. And I'm like, it's probably from all the coughing. But we also stopped later that night and had Chinese for dinner, and then we went to bed. Well, my husband went to bed. I was getting ready to go to bed, and it was like 11:30 p.m. Sunday night. And that was on Sunday, April 17th. And I ended up getting a phone call from a friend of mine, the friend of mine that we picked up Friday from Columbia, South Carolina. She has a younger sister. And her younger sister called me. Normally she doesn't call me that late, so something was definitely up. I answered it, and as soon as I answered it, the first thing out of her mouth is, Mom has COVID. And I'm like, oh crap. And I asked her, I said, when did she find out? And she goes, literally just now. I said, what do you mean? She goes, I literally just got off the phone with Mom. An ambulance had to be called. She has COPD. She's running a fever. She's vomiting. She's extremely fatigued. And she is coughing so hard that it's hurting her chest and throat. They called an ambulance to try to get her under control because she was struggling to breathe. They did a COVID test on her, and it came out positive. And I'm like, crap. I'm like, well. And I told her, I said, this is what I'm dealing with right now, but I automatically just assumed it was allergies, so I didn't think anything of it. And I'm like, I'm going to have to get tested in the morning. And if it comes out that I am, and then I literally just stopped and I thought about it, and I'm like, crap. That means I've exposed friends at a birthday party, I've exposed everyone at church, and I've exposed everyone at Golden Corral, a Chinese restaurant, and Walmart. I'm like, crap. I literally got half the town that I live in probably infected and didn't even know it. And that's all I kept thinking. And I'm like, all I kept going through my mind was, shit. That's not good. That's all I kept thinking. I'm like, yikes. It was horrible. And so she gives me the update about everything that's going on. And I told her, I said, well, first thing in the morning, I'm going to tell my husband and we're going to go get tested and make sure that it's just allergies. And she goes, well, call me as soon as you get the results. I said, okay. We hang up. I'm laying in bed, coughing my freaking brains out because the cough syrup, for some reason, is being difficult. It was fine at first, but then it started acting up again. I had to take more. And then I did a bunch of cough drops, just trying to get my throat to stop driving me nuts. I didn't sleep at all that night. I literally tossed and turned and coughed my freaking brains out. My husband slept until about 4 a.m. He went to bed at 9:30 and he slept till 4. He woke up to go to the bathroom. I was already awake. And then he comes back to bed, and the first thing I said to him is, in the morning at 8 a.m., you and I have to be tested for COVID. He looked at me and goes, why? And that's when I told him about the phone call I received. And he goes, oh, crap. And he goes, dang it. So 8 a.m. shows up. I'm still struggling with my throat, coughing nonstop. I can't seem to get it to stop. It was driving me literally nuts. And I was beginning to get a stronger headache than normal. So we happened to have those home kit COVID tests. We each had one left in the house. And I used my last one. I waited. The results came back, and it said on the home kit that you get at home, the testing kit, you have to wait for 15 minutes. It came out saying positive. I looked at him and said, do I just take word for this, or do we going to go to a site and get it tested and make sure? He goes, we're going to a site to make sure. So we drove to a spot in the town, and they have an on-site area where they test you. They put all of our information into the computer. They tested us. They said, give it 2 hours and we'll have an answer. 2 hours later, I haven't received any information. I'm not getting any text messages. I gave them my email. There's nothing in there. I even checked the spam folder. Nothing. We get another 2 hours waiting. Finally, nothing. And my husband goes, we're just going to drive back there and have them print out our test results. So we go back to the site. They print out both of ours and hand it to us. It came back positive. And I'm like, well, okay then. So I sent a message to the friend that we dropped off at her mom's. I sent her the results. And then I sent a text message to her sister saying, call me immediately. Now, it took her a couple of hours to call me back because she had her hands full taking care of a bunch of errands and trying to take care of her boyfriend's dog who had just gone through surgery. But she finally calls me later that night, and I tell her everything that happened that day. And she goes, well, that sucks. I'm like, yeah. And then I was contemplating on whether or not to tell my sister. But I'm like, you know what, I'll just tell my sister, because I don't know. So, before going to bed that night, I texted my sister. I said, me and my husband both tested positive for COVID. And she goes, I'm sorry. That night, for 4 hours straight, I was freezing to death on the inside of my body. That's how it felt. I literally felt like I was freezing to death on the inside of my body. My skin was so hot to the touch that I took something cold and pressed it against my neck, and it felt so good. I realized I had a fever, a really bad fever. And I was taking anything cold I could find in the house and just pressing it against myself right here because my body was just like cold, to give me cold stuff to my skin. I drank some hot soup to see if that would warm up the inside of my body. I put on a whole bunch of layers of clothes. I wrapped myself up in the blanket because even though my skin was like super hot, I was freezing. And I lay there for 4 hours. I passed out at some point, and when I woke up, I had sweated the fever out. And I know this because when I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. My clothes were soaked, my body was soaked, and I'm like, yep, I just sweated out a really bad fever. I know I probably should have tested myself to see what the fever was, but I had a splitting migraine so bad that the idea of even turning on the bathroom light to find the thermometer was not going to happen. I'm like, my head is throbbing. So I didn't even bother looking at the thermometer, but I knew I had a fever. So once I peeled off all of the soaked clothes, I went and I immediately took a shower and just cleaned myself so I wouldn't feel so dirty anymore. I don't know about other people, but when you're covered in clothing that you sweated in, you feel icky. So I took a shower to clean. Felt a lot better afterwards, and then went and got some more soup. I texted both the friend from South Carolina and her sister. I texted them both and told them the news about what I was going through and what I was dealing with. And that was the only time I had a fever. For the rest of that week, I had sore throat, coughing nonstop, blowing my nose like crazy. My nose got chapped from blowing so much. And sneezing a lot. I sneezed a lot. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I was very, very lethargic, and all I wanted to do was lay in bed or lay on the couch and watch TV. And my brain, I have ADHD, and my brain kept saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. I wanted to do dishes, I wanted to do laundry, dump the trash. I couldn't. I literally had no energy in my body whatsoever to do anything. I'm lucky and surprised that I even had the energy and the strength to get myself off the couch or out of bed just to use the bathroom. I felt like crap. We were told by the lady at the testing site for 10 whole days to stay quarantined. So I ended up not going to church this past Sunday. I watched church from home. I was able to watch it on Facebook. But for the longest time, I didn't think I was going to be dealing with COVID because I got the vaccine. But no, you can still get it. But my body was able to fight it off. The only thing I'm dealing with now is a persistent cough that comes and goes. I emailed my doctor, told her about the COVID thing. I told her what I was dealing with, and I asked if she could prescribe medication. She did. I am taking this 3 times a day for the next 10 days. I started it yesterday afternoon. I'm supposed to take one at breakfast, lunch, and dinner before I go to bed. So far, I'm only taking it for breakfast. I'm getting ready to go take it for lunch. I haven't had lunch yet. But, I've been doing a lot of cough drops that are menthol. That are, like, extra strength, and it's supposed to, help with my throat. I mean, it does. The first time I had one, it was disgusting. But I've gotten used to the taste of it. It doesn't bother me anymore. But I try to suppress the cough as much as I can because I hate coughing. It hurts my throat. I hate it. But the hubby's doing fine. Neither one of us are dealing with it anymore. He still has an occasional cough. I think mine's worse than his on the coughing. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is. Just giving you an update that we ended up with COVID. And so there you go. That's an update on us dealing with COVID and how we ended up with it. So that's it.